Put a smile on your face when you're moving from place to place. Good morning, good morning, morning.
Welcome back to the morning show on Tobago Updates Television. I am Adanna Combie and it's now 7:34 a.m. So remember, if you get into work for 8, you still have a few minutes. Get there safely. Remember to practice road safety on our nation's roads. Be mindful of other drivers and pedestrians as well. All right, we continue conversations this morning in studio with our guests, and this morning we're speaking with Mr. Kyle Joseph, and he's a goat owner and a trainer, and we're talking about the goat racing for Easter 2024. We want to get an update and your reviews as to how this year was in relation to all the other years. Good morning and welcome.
Good morning, good morning.
Right, so tell us first and foremost a little bit about yourself as a goat owner and your involvement in the goat racing around Easter time.
All right, so I was introduced to goat race from my uncle. By just looking on, it used to have a goat race in Tobago once, and I tried it. But younger, I used to see about, I'm a farmer for today, but I used to see about my uncle animals. So I used to be running the sheep and them, and he always used to be like, stop running the sheep. So I had the opportunity to really try goat racing with my uncle, and then I was successful at it.
Okay, and of course you enjoyed it because you tell me you were running the sheep before, it's something you enjoy.
Yeah, I used to used to run in the sheep.
Okay, so that's a very long span. About how many years have you been involved in this, would you say, if you could estimate it?
From the age, so I born my uncle, I grew up seeing my uncle doing it, so maybe I'll say 40 years.
Wow. So you have good experience in the goat racing thing. Yeah. Sometimes we just see people racing the goats and we think that is an easy job, but you could run and you have a guide, you could race this goat. So tell us about how technical this goat racing thing is, because I'm very interested in this to see how you are able to manage this goat and to control the animal to ensure that they run in the direction you want them to run in.
All right, so it could start off by just the hooves. So if you don't clean the hooves properly, it's like you're walking in a high heel shoe and half of it on one side. So if you don't clean the hooves properly, they wouldn't step properly. So you'll find they don't want to walk much because it's not level. So they'll be walking on one side. So that's just one part of it. Selecting the animal. So for me, I'm a breeder. I don't buy. I have animals. So I do my own breeding. And so it starts with the breeding, then it starts with, you have to try to walk them straight, let them learn to walk straight, let them learn to walk up to the box. So you'll notice that in the goat race, you will see some guys have to take another, I would call it a pilot or another goat to make the other goat walk up. It's because the goat not that experienced, it's because it's not accustomed to the crowd. So you have to teach them to walk, teach them to know the crowd. So I lost the race just by the goat coming down, and then after you see a pink jersey and he just run on the next side. So you have to teach them all these little things. You have to teach them to swim.
But how do you, this is so interesting, how do you teach an animal to be accustomed to a crowd, or to be aware that a crowd is there, but focus on the mission, which is to win the race, or just run in a straight line?
For some reason, goats are different from sheep. They have a better memory. So if you keep on overdoing it over a point in time, they'll get accustomed to it. But to say to get accustomed to the crowd, it's just a personality thing with the goat, just like me and you. Because I have a big goat, he's very experienced. But for some reason, when he see crowd, he just start to get very nervous.
Wow. Wow, this is so interesting, because sometimes I'm just thinking that all we have to do is to train this animal to run. I know you're talking about from the breeding process, training them to be in crowds, training them to be focused, even cleaning their hooves. I didn't even think about all of these things, so I'm happy that you're bringing this information to us now for us to have this level of education. So for over the 40 years that you've been involved in goat racing, and this year, what are your comparisons in terms of what was the experience like for you coming up to this period, and even this year, what was it like for you in terms of your participation and the participation of new goat owners and runners in the race? Are you seeing an increase in involvement? How has it been over the years?
So I will go to meetings and I will speak out loud that I will see things that in the last 20 years, things that haven't been changed, like the price structure. We have a bigger facility. And I'm speaking on behalf of the goat owners and trainers. We have a bigger facility and we can't use the facility as much as we want to use the facility. You know, so for me, I will see it's a big decline where goat racing is concerned because we bring the people to the park, and I'll speak openly again. Mount Pleasant, it was a sports day and family day. It wasn't even mentioned. Goat racing, you know, it wasn't even like marketed as goat racing. And if the goats don't come, there is no goat racing. So it have a lot of things could change. Leading up to the goat racing in Buku, we didn't get to use the track. Nobody didn't speak about that. The track was locked off for maintenance. They say it was maintained for maintenance wise, but that was the only goat racing track. I have my own goat racing track now, so it was forced. I was forced to at least try to have my own goat racing track, so I wouldn't go through that. Because the last 3 weeks, some of us didn't even get to train the goats.
Wow. So these are some of the challenges that you all are experiencing as goat owners and racers of the sport. Luckily for you, as you said, you have your own
goat race track. That's when I keep the goat race on Good Friday. So,
wow. And now training the goat on your own track and bringing it into the arena now for the racing. Was the goat familiar with the track, or how did that work out for you?
It is one of the most important things is basically getting the goats up to speed in terms of fit. And I would say we're going to take a gamble. Because why I say take a gamble as well, because there's only 2 goats racing for the year, so it's basically a gamble. So you just have to go down there and hope that all is good and the goats run straight and doesn't get distracted.
Right. And what have your relationship been like with other goat owners or even persons who, I know you said there's a decline, but have you heard about any interest from other people wanting to participate in this sport and having challenges, and how would you advise them to get involved in the sport and even to overcome the challenges? Because even though you have challenges, you still race your goat, which means that you have managed to overcome that hurdle. For now at least, until we can get some measure of resolve for all the other racers as well. How do you advise somebody who wants to start into this sport?
To be honest, financially it doesn't make sense to the goat owners because we only race twice a year. We can't let go the goat, so the goat we always have to be cutting feed for the goat. So for new people who come in or on why it's not having a decline, because a lot of people find it's not making sense. So it's just a traditional thing we carrying on still, because it doesn't have nothing for farmers to say to do to come together. So we use goat racing as one of those ways to come together as a family day. But to say that it making sense, I don't think it making no sense
financially. But how important is it to maintain the tradition and also to pass on the legacy, even if you're not making financial gains, which is something we could discuss at another discussion for another time? How important is it to maintain the tradition? How important is it for us to hand down this tradition to generations who are upcoming? Because we realize that for some of our traditions and our culture, we've been losing the essence of it because of probably the same issue or other issues. And so we want to maintain that level of tradition. Is it more important to maintain the tradition, or is it more important to say, listen, there's no financial gain here, so I'm hanging up my hat, my goat isn't racing anymore, and I'm not going to be taking care of this goat, and just keeping it for racing purposes?
It's expensive. It's expensive to carry on the tradition. So for instance, I saw the sheep fan guys on them linemen under the paddock, and I know they're linemen on the paddock because they're waiting for the guys who didn't place, who didn't make anything in the races, so they're going to sell the goats. Because if you don't place, as much as you see all the goat owners, a lot of them go home with nothing. Nothing.
So this is a good opportunity here now for you to make a plea for, corporate Tobago, for all the stakeholders to come on board and to do some measure of revision in terms of how are we going to make this event, or, for the goat owners, to be profitable in one way or the other? How are we going to ensure that it is something that they want to continue doing, something that is enjoyable, not only enjoyable, but also has some kind of returns on it? So now is your perfect opportunity for it. I'm giving you that 30 seconds there to put in that plug to appeal to whom it may concern to come on board with you, to join, to ensure that, we can have some measure of returns where this is concerned.
First, it starts with us. It starts with the Goat Race Association. I think we should come together as goat race owners. And I could only speak for myself, but it have other guys who will just do it just because. So I'll just like the goat owners and the Goat Owners Association to come together. When we negotiate for a better goat race, a better Tobago, because thousands of people was in the stands, and we are the goat owners, and we don't even get 1% from the door. So things like that, it's just simple stuff. At least the goat owners go home back with something, so at least we could keep the prices the same, and work on some sort of percentage at the door, because as much as a guy doesn't win, he still puts on a show, and he puts on a show because we have to pay entries as well. And paying entries, $600 in entries, and go back home with nothing, we still at a loss, although we carrying on the show. So first it starts with the association. We could come together, and then we could plead our case. So for me alone, I wouldn't say for, I like the association, the president, and them to at least come and bring forward. But I just my little knowledge of what's going on in goat racing.
Okay, and goat racing is something that we do enjoy here in Tobago, and we take pride in this, as I mentioned in our discourse earlier, that the goat racing is really indigenous to Tobago. There's nowhere else on the planet that I know of that they race goats, and so we want to maintain that tradition here in Tobago. So whatever it takes, all the arms come together to ensure that the races are more profitable for all those who participate and engage, and that they can see some measure of returns. Thank you so much, Mr. Joseph, for coming on the show this morning and for bringing information. Thank you for your passion in racing goats, and of course speaking to the issues that you face. And we do hope that resolve will come, and that we are able to continue this annual tradition of goat racing here in Tobago during the Easter period. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is where we end our conversation with Kyle Joseph this morning, but we continue on later on with our next guest. And of course, before we do that, we have to take a short break. And when we take a short break, what do? Invite you to share the live, share the live, share the live. We'll be right back.